Okay, guys, welcome to the 2023 Muskogee Creek Nation General Election Okmulgee District debate. I'm going to be your host tonight, Jared Moore, also the moderator of this debate. So, on tonight's format, what we're going to do is I'm going to take questions as usual from the chat. If you have a question, when you post it, you need to specify which candidate it's for or whether it's for both candidates. I have a list of pre-prepared questions that I have that I'm going to start with, but I am going to prioritize you guys' questions. So when I see one pop up, once we're done with the discussion on our prepared questions, we'll ask that question. I'm going to ask each candidate first alternating. So in other words, I'm going to start off with Mr. Lowe on the first question, and then Robyn will get the second question, and so on and so forth. But both candidates will get a chance to answer the question when we're working on it. So with all of that rigmarole out of the way, thanks for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it, guys.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us.
Let me turn you guys up a little bit. Okay, so the first question I have, we have a question popping up. Blue's posting a question. Let me see what this is. Go ahead, Blue. I don't see the rest of it yet. I'll let you type that. I'm going to go ahead and do the first question we have. And I'm going to start with Mr. Lowe, and then we'll get Robyn's response after that. I would ask you guys, we're on kind of a time budget here with only an hour, so try to keep it as concise as you can. The first question is, does the legislative branch need to be more transparent? If so, what changes do you propose? Mr. Lowe?
Right. Thank you, Jared. I think we're very transparent as we can be. A lot of the times when we have a fact finding, for instance, that we do the actual investigation, sometimes even the last two fact findings that we've had that dealt with actual council representatives, the motion was made that those reports would not leave the internal affairs, not fact finding, the internal affairs. A motion was made that it would be sealed and not leave that. So, that's just one thing that motion was made. The actual committee agreed, and they voted not to put that out to the public. So it didn't make it to anyone. But, I think a lot of different times, like our work sessions, during this whole campaign, this whole election season, it's been mentioned that our work sessions should be posted, should be recorded. And some of that's right now confidential information that can't get out because, even let's say a gaming property, somebody actually told the media and it caused a big problem in that aspect. So, to me, I think we do a great job. It could be more transparent in some things because, they really want to let people know what we talk about because we don't want to hide anything from the citizens, But on the other hand, if we get it out there, social media can get pretty messy. So we don't want to deal with that either. So that's my answer.
And Miss Whitecloud, do you want to have a response there to that question? Do you want me to read it again, or?
Yes, please read the question again.
The question is, does the legislative branch need to be more transparent? If so, what changes do you propose?
Well, I think that for starters, Speaker has gone on some trips even here lately and called meetings that not the whole council was aware of. And so, when the speaker acts on behalf of the National Council, he's supposed to have the advice and consent of the National Council, and that hasn't been the case lately in a few meetings and places that he's gone. So I don't think that's being very transparent when the whole National Council is not even aware of what he's doing or where he's going.
Just to interject there, do you have any specifics on? Do you have like a specific meeting that you're referencing?
Well, there was a meeting called for the Mikos of some of the grounds, and the reason I know this is because one of the Micos was at church on Sunday, right before this meeting took place, and a national council member was there, and Miko asked him what this meeting was about the next day, or maybe it was the next 2 days, I don't know. But the national council member was unaware of this meeting. So he said, I don't know. And so anyway, it was a meeting with the Micos. And
Okay.
there may have been a couple of council members there, but not the full council knew anything about it.
Okay. And I want to give Mr. Lowe a chance to respond to that, but I want you to go ahead and finish your response to the question. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that question?
I just think that we need to follow the rules of procedure to a T. I've worked for speakers before who didn't do anything without the advice and consensus of the National Council. They wouldn't go anywhere to any meetings or do anything representing the council until they truly had the consent and advice of the full National Council.
Okay. Mr. Lowe, would you like to respond? Was there a meeting that you had with the Micos, or what was the situation there?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Jared. This particular meeting, for me, again, this whole campaign, people have been talking about us having meetings where we're not posting our agenda and meeting a quorum and being official. Me as the speaker, I can meet with anyone that I choose myself and don't have to have a quorum of the council. I was getting calls the day that the judgment was made for the Freedman issue, the Freedman court hearing. And the Micos that were talking to me were concerned that our Constitution would be dissolving because of this judgment. And I asked Representative Cloud, because he's one of the representatives for the new Humanities and Cultural Group, since he talks to them all the time, that he called them in. We just brought them in. We visited. There were 4 council there that are members of grounds. One's on the council, one's at Arbica, one New Yucca, and they came in there, and with our attorney, we were able to educate them and get their concerns. What were their concerns? Our actual attorney was able to justify and really educate them on why this decision was made, how it was made, etc. Mm-hmm. So, while they came in at lunch, because most of them are employees of the tribe, I brought them some pizza and we just ate, had a discussion, and it was 1 hour long. And that was that. We didn't have a quorum of the council, and I didn't need to post an agenda. It was just information sharing with the Micos.
Okay. We've had some questions pop up while we're talking about that question, so I'm going to run through these, and then we'll go back to the pre-scheduled ones. Let's see here. I'm going to make sure my volume's okay. So the first one comes from Tulsa MCN Monitors. He asked, or he or she, I don't know if it's a he or she. I always do that. Tulsa MCN Monitors asked, Speaker Lowe, you being a council rep and speaker, how do you explain the lack of accountability from the National Council in monitoring and demanding the mandated yearly financial audits?
Yep. For us, we do work with the controller, but the controller is with the executive branch. When we did visit with Chief, he did let us know that Patricia Killian, the controller, was working on them. Now, as the council representative, all we can do is inquire. We can't force people to hurry up and work. We can't force people to hire more people. We can't make them work 24 hours a day. So for us, I feel we did our job enough to inquire about it and try to work with Chief's office to give her time to get it going. Now, we've all heard Chief talk about when she came in, there was a lot of disarray in that department. So when one audit was not done or not being worked on, whatever the case may be, they worked on it, got it done, and then started the others. But for us, I feel we did what we needed to do, because out of 16 representatives, I'm sure each one of us asked the controller or asked the chief about these audits. Now, remember, I'm one of 16. I can't do anything by myself. So it's 16 of us that was probably asking and inquiring. But I feel we did enough of that to at least get some updates.
Okay. I'm going to move on to the next question here. And this looks like a question for both of you. It's not specified. And I'll say, TY Prol, if you're going to post questions, we need to know whether it's for both candidates or it's for an individual candidate. But it looks like a both candidates question, so I'm going to ask it that way. TY Prol asks, do you believe new Muskogee tribal towns can still be organized under the Oklahoma Indian Welfare Act? And I'm going to start with you, Ms. Whitecloud.
Do I believe new tribal towns can what?
Do you believe new Muskogee tribal towns can still be organized under the Oklahoma Indian Welfare Act?
I'm really not familiar with the Indian Child Welfare Act as it
No,
relates to.
it's not Indian Child Welfare. It's an Oklahoma Indian Welfare Act.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not really versed on that, so I would have to do research to be able to answer that question.
Okay.
So,
Mr. Lowe?
Right. I mean, for me, I'm the same. I don't know the details of that act.
Okay.
You know, I do know that we did meet with the Uchis recently, and you know the title that has the 25 communities already, that would need to be revised because they would need more funding if they became a tribal town or a community within our tribe.
Okay.
So that's kind of the latest on that issue.
All right. I'm going to move on to the next question. And I think this is also for both candidates. But again, guys, you need to specify your questions. Are they for both candidates or for single candidates? Blue asks, what are your views concerning the judgment concerning the Creek-Friedman and the 1866 treaty being based law? Mr. Lowe, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Jared. You know, for me, I took an oath to follow our Constitution. And, you know, to me, I understand the judge made her decision on what was presented to her. But to me, as a council representative, a current representative, and as the speaker of the Muskogee Creek Nation, I follow our Constitution because I took that oath and swore in, and I feel that our citizenship is by blood.
All right, Ms. Whitecloud.
I too would uphold the Constitution. Any individual that wants to become an enrolled Creek citizen has to go by our regulations and our rules, which is you have to prove your lineage by blood. So that's what I would uphold, and you know the cases in litigation. So I couldn't speak any further to that.
Our next question is from T.Y. Pearl. It's very similar. It's along the same lines, and I believe it's for both of you. Does the 1866 treaty require citizenship be granted to freedmen-rolled descendants or only equal citizenship as may be granted at the discretion of the nation under our Constitution? I think it's pretty much going to be the same answer, but Ms. Whitecloud, if you want to start out with that one.
I think as sovereign nations, we were granted the right to make our requirements and our own rules and regulations regarding that. So it's by blood in our Constitution, and we have the right to make that.
All right, Mr. Lowe.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And I, again, will say the Constitution clearly states that, and that's what I took the oath to, and that's what I'll follow, sir.
All right, we've got a question for you, Mr. Lowe. Bristow MCN Monitors asks, Speaker, we talked with several council members and they knew nothing of your trip to Hawaii. A nonprofit donated $10,000, which was not MCN funds. Were you sanctioned to represent the MCN?
Thank you, Jared, for that question. You know, for me, when I travel and use my personal expenses, I don't have to notify anyone. I did let the second speaker know that I would be away from the office for a couple of days. I let the chairs of any committees know that if I were not going to be able to call into their meetings, because we can call in and be on Zoom and still be accountable and attendance. So when I spend my own money, I don't need to tell anybody where I'm traveling, because that's just like asking me, YouTube, what did you do with your own money? So you know what I mean? So when I spend my personal money, I went out there as a representative of myself because it's a humanitarian effort for those tribal members who lost everything in that fire. And I have a background in that resource development. So I went out there and saw it myself and offered some advice to them. So for me, wherever I go on my own money, it's my own money that I'm spending, not the tribe's.
Okay. All right, we're going to go to the next question. T.Y. Prohl asks, of both of you. So, and I think did I start off with Ms. Whitecloud last time? I think I did.
Yeah,
Is it okay if I start off with Mr. Lowe, Ms. Whitecloud, for this next question?
Yes.
Alrighty.
Yes, that's fine.
TY Prohl asks, what's up with One Fire and MBNE? I think he means MNBE. Are you satisfied with the performance of these entities? Mr. Lowe, if you'll start off.
Yes, thank you, Jared. With MNB, they have a board now that I feel that has really brought some great experience to them. In the past, they've been pretty stagnant, and we've not seen much growth from them. But here recently, they're starting to get there where they're finding their niche in 8A and all these different governmental contracts that they're doing. So to me, the actual governing board has came in and helped them tremendously, not only in governance, but to help their CEO and all their workers. So I would compliment MNB to that they're doing well, and I appreciate what they're doing. One Fire back in, I can't even remember the year now, maybe 2021, the end of 2020, I wrote a legislation to dissolve that board for the fact that they were making some very bad decisions, and there was a lot of nepotism going on within that actual company. So they've been without a board, and I would just commend Jeff Five for coming in and taking that role on. Chief assigned him as the chief of staff to go in there and help run that. And you go up there and take a look. The landscaping is great. It looks open. It's a happy place to be, and almost all the buildings and the rooms, the vacancies are more now. They're no more or less vacancies is what I'm trying to say. They're starting to get clients, and we were up there about 3 weeks ago, and it looks tremendously phenomenal up there.
Okay, Ms. Whitecloud.
I've been away from the tribe for about 5 years, so I'm really not in the loop as to what's going on with One Fire or MNBE. So that's something I would have to dig into and find out what's going on.
Let's see here. I'm moving on down this question list. They keep popping in. Eufaula MCN Monitors asks, Speaker, why have you not officially sanctioned the 2 council representatives for misdemeanor crimes? Their misdemeanor crime did not come into light until exposed. Did you know prior to exposure?
I will say on the traffic violation incident with the councilman, I don't want to say names and embarrass anyone, but he did come directly to me the next day after, 2 days after, and let me know that. But in our accountability efforts as council representatives, for me, since the second speaker is the chair of internal affairs, I took what he told me, his incident, and let him know. He called an internal affairs meeting, and they had that meeting, and even the second time it happened, they had that meeting. But then even the other council representative, internal affairs, did meet. I did sit in that meeting, and what ended up happening is the council couldn't really do anything to him because we all know the unfortunate thing that we ran into with Representative Travis Scott, where we did the wrong things and the wrong proceedings, and it really cost us. So, we couldn't go down that route again. So, to me, those 2 council representatives did have their hearings with the internal affairs, and it was chosen that they could not really do anything to them.
Okay.
But they did have that hearing, yes.
I want to reference Ms. Barnett in the chat. You have a statement in there, and if it is a question, could you rephrase it as a question, because it looks like just a declaratory statement. I'm going to move on down the line. T.Y. Prohl asks for both you guys, and I think I'm getting lost on who started. I think Ms. Whitecloud is starting this next time. Is that right? Yes. If that's okay with you guys, we'll do it that way. Do you support the city of Tulsa changing the date on the city seal to 1836, or should they keep it 1898? Ms. Whitecloud.
I'm not versed on that either. So.
Well, just a little background if you haven't heard of this. Recently, Mayor G.T. Bynum of Tulsa, I think he made a Facebook post, or he made an announcement that they're looking into changing the date that's on the Tulsa seal to 1836 to reflect the original Tulsi town, the Creek council spot under the council oak and everything. So they're changing the official date for the start of the city to that date as opposed to what's on there right now, which is 1898. Do you have an opinion on that?
Oh, if that's recognizing when we first came, to Tulsa, then yes, I would support it.
All right, Mr. Lowe?
Yes, sir. I would support that. If they're recognizing Tulsi Town and we were there first and that was the date, then yes, sir. I support it.
All right, I'm moving to the next question. Blue asks, and this is for both of you, and I believe Mr. Lowe is starting this time. Were the freedmen allowed to vote for the 1979 Constitution, and was another tribe established during the 1979 Constitution?
Thank you, Jared. I was 5 years old at that time, so I have no idea if they voted or not. I was told by some representatives and some officials that they did have an opportunity to vote, but then I were told by the same amount that they did not. So for me, without being there, I really couldn't tell you either way, sir.
Okay, Ms. Whitecloud?
Yeah, same here. I'm not
All
sure.
right. I'm going to move on down the line to the next question. Miss Teresa Golden asks to both of you, and so Miss Whitecloud, you're up first. Did the Creek Nation own slaves known as Creek freedmen?
Yes, I believe so.
All right, Mr. Lowe?
Yes, sir, I believe so.
Okay. Moving down the line. T.Y. Prohl asks of both of you, and I believe you're up first, Mr. Lowe. Do you think the lack of council candidates in this election is attributable to having a smaller pool of eligible candidates due to blood quantum restrictions? Should that be lifted?
My turn, right?
Yes, you're first,
Yeah,
Mr.
for
Lowe.
me,
Sorry.
I can't speak for any other Creek citizen that's a full citizen that chose not to run in their district. To me, I feel that the full citizenship blood quantum that we have is something that I will continue to support. And, to me, I don't think we should lower it. But, I can't speak on behalf of why there were some candidates that didn't receive any opposition. I say good on them, and I know they do great in their seats. So, yeah, good for them.
Okay, Ms. Whitecloud?
I'm not really sure why we had 5 seats unopposed, but I don't think it's lack of full citizenship at this time. I think maybe at some point in the future, we may have to look at blood quantum for people to run. But right now, I don't think that's the issue. I think there's low people that are just not interested for whatever reason.
Okay. Let's see here. I'm moving down the line. Creek Pride 23 has a question for you, Mr. Lowe. Speaker, why did you not personally call for a vote of no confidence on the current MCN Attorney General since she was sanctioned and personally fined $500 for district court intimidation?
Yes, sir. Thank you. The reason that I did not, as the speaker, I did talk to the council, but my personal opinion, sir, is the citizenship board hired the attorney general to represent them. So she represented the citizenship board. And, for me, as the me following the Constitution, I'm, not happy with the decision, but the judgment was made. I felt as the speaker or as a council representative that if we did a no confidence vote in her, that it, to me, just would have ruffled any kind of feathers or any good relationship that we had with the AG, because she represented citizenship, not the council. So that's why I didn't do a no confidence, sir.
Okay. Moving down to the next question. T.Y. Prohl, this is for both of you, and I think I start off with Miss Whitecloud this time. Should Judge Mauser be removed from the bench? Miss Whitecloud? Judge Mauser is the judge in the Friedman case, just to clarify if you don't.
I do know that much.
Okay.
I don't really think that's for me to say.
Okay.
I mean, it's under appeal, so.
All right, Mr. Lowe.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I don't feel she should be removed for the fact that she made her judgment on what was presented to her. So that's my answer, and I feel she did what she needed to do as a judge. And I know that at the end of this year, her time as the judge is up, and they get reconfirmed. So if the council, whoever's on the council, then chooses not to obtain her or confirm her, then that's their ability to do that in January.
Okay, and that's one of the things I was going to touch on, just for some clarification on that particular question. Judges do go through the confirmation process at the National Council will vote on to reconfirm her. And I guess this is probably a question that's going to come down the line in a second, and so we could just get it out of the way now. Ms. Whitecloud, if you were elected, would you reconfirm Judge Mauser?
Well, excuse me, I'm sure she would have to come before the full council for an interview, and I would look at her credentials and all of that before I would make a decision.
All right. And Mr. Lowe, if you are reelected, will you vote?
Right, sir. And I've seen her credentials. I've seen and heard a lot of her court cases, and I think she's a phenomenal judge, but I would not reconfirm her, sir.
Okay. So let's see. There's still questions coming in, hot and heavy. Let's, where was I? Judge Mauser. Okay. Blue asks for both of you, and I think you are up first, Mr. Lowe. If it was found that the Creek freedmen were not allowed to vote, should the 1979 Constitution stand?
I mean, our Constitution's adopted. We've been using it since 1979. I say, it stands. So for me, taking that oath, that's the only answer I can give. So I appreciate our Constitution and will follow it.
All right. Ms. Whitecloud?
Yes, I believe it should stand.
All right. T.Y. Prohl asks from both of you, so it's going to start with you, Ms. Whitecloud. Did the nation this is a clarification question he's asking. Did the nation collectively own slaves, or was it just individual citizens?
I have no idea. I would totally be guessing and saying
right.
Individuals.
Okay, Mr. Lowe?
If I had to guess, I would say individuals. I don't know specifically.
Okay. All righty. Blue asks for both of you, and so we start off with Ms. Whitecloud this time. Is it okay for the AG to intimidate a seated judge?
I don't think so.
Okay. Mr. Lowe?
Yeah.
No, sir, it is not. AG should not be intimidating anyone.
All right. Moving to the next question. T.Y. Prohl asks of both of you, and so I think it starts with you, Mr. Lowe. Do you believe Judge Mauser followed the Constitution?
Well, the judgment she made was what was presented to her. And, the judgment on the treaty doesn't mention anything about the Constitution. I wish it did, because I feel it would have been a different judgment. But, I just wish the Constitution would have been in there more and stated in there more in her judgment. But, with our Constitution, it says by blood. So I would say I do not think she followed the Constitution.
Okay. Ms. Whitecloud?
I would just echo that.
Okay.
Because we're going by our Constitution.
All right. We've gotten to... okay. We got a question just popped up, and I'm assuming this is for both of you. I thought we were done with this for a second, but here was where we are. So it's going to start with you, Ms. Whitecloud. Will you support reappointing A.G. Wisner?
Again, I would have to, not being on the council and not being around the tribe for 5 years, I would have to look at their credentials, go through the interview process before I can make a decision.
Okay. Well, and just to maybe give you some information to help make your decision, the reason they're asking that question is because A.G. Wisner was representing citizenship in the Freedman case, and she got sanctioned for intimidating the judge and those things. The A.G. Wisner is the one who got sanctioned for intimidating the judge. Does that change anything about your...
Well, I don't think any leadership person should intimidate employees or other judges or anybody. And that goes on more than just in the AG's office. So I would have to look at all the facts before I made a decision.
Okay. Mr. Lowe?
Yes, sir. Thank you. For me, I would think that, A.G. Wisner is a very strong attorney, and she did the best she could with the facts that she presented. And we need a strong team over there at the AG's office, and I would definitely confirm her again.
Okay. All right, moving down. This one's for you, Mr. Lowe. Okmulgee MCN monitors asked Speaker, do you believe that anyone's personal social media postings should have 100% freedom and not in any way be stifled or shut down or be pressured to curtail their own opinions?
Their own opinion, as in own opinions against the tribe, or
I don't know. I don't know what he's
feel that
referring
we
to.
have freedom of speech, and you need to and should post what you want to.
Okay.
I believe in the freedom of speech.
Alrighty. Blue asks a question of both of you. I'm getting lost on which one we started with. I think Miss Whitecloud's up first. If that's okay with you guys, we'll start with Miss Whitecloud.
Okay.
Blue asks, what is most important, the treaty or Constitution as concerning United States and Native relationships?
I would say the Constitution still.
Okay. Mr. Lowe?
Yes, sir. Constitution for sure.
Okay. We have a question for both of you, and we'll start with Mr. Lowe. Do you think Judge Mauser's sanction was justified?
I do not.
Okay.
I say at the beginning of the court hearings, the case, that from my recollection, that the AG was asked 2 times, I think, maybe 3 times, if Judge Mauser should recuse herself since she had served on the Supreme Court in the previous hearings.
Well,
yeah.
We don't need to. I would have to live fact check whatever we're going to say next. You're saying you do not think it's justified. I think is good enough, because I would need to pull up my endless spreadsheet of everything that happened. But Miss Whitecloud, what is your opinion?
Was her sanction justified?
Yes, Judge Mauser, it was the judge in the Friedman case, and she filed sanctions against A.G. Wisner for intimidating the court.
Again, having not been involved with any of those hearings or anything, I can't say.
Okay.
I can't give an opinion on that.
All right. T.Y. Prohl's got a question for both of you. I'm going to start off with Miss Whitecloud. Do you support the tribe filing amicus on the Strobel case and Hooper case?
You're going to have to explain to me what amicus is.
An amicus brief is just filing a brief in addition to the other briefs that are filed in the case. So the plaintiff and the defendant, they both file a brief, and then other interests, legal interests that are affiliated with that will file extra briefs there, and that's what amicus means. Normally, like the tribe filed an amicus brief in the McGirt case and several other cases. Would you support the tribe also filing a brief on the Strobel and Hooper case?
Yes, because it deals with our sovereignty. So, yes,
All
I would
right.
support that.
Mr. Lowe?
Yes, sir. I feel I would support that for the fact that, amicus brief, they can look and gain other support from different entities and maybe bring some things that weren't discussed in the previous case in their amicus brief. So I do support it. Thank you.
All right. Okay. We've done all the chat questions for now. I'm going to move back to my questions. This is for both of you guys, and I'm going to start with Mr. Lowe. And this is a little bit of inside baseball, but I wanted to ask you and start with Mr. Lowe. Should more legislation originate from input from constituents or from the executive branch?
Right. I would say, we get plenty of legislation from the executive branch. They, chiefs staff writes some great legislation for us to review. What we seldom get is any legislation from any citizens or constituents, however they're looked at in this particular question. So, if there were some from a citizen that were, interested in anything, since I've been on council, I haven't actually seen anything like that, but almost every month, the executive branch send over lots of legislation to us.
Okay. Ms. Whitecloud?
I definitely think we need more input from citizens. Just like Mr. Lowe said, we do get a lot I know there has been a lot that comes from the executive branch. So I would say citizens.
Okay. Let's see here. We've had a question pop up in the chat. Blue asks of both of you, and I believe we're starting with Ms. Whitecloud this time. What are your views concerning the ruling with the McGirt versus Oklahoma case? Actually, Blue, I'm going to ask you to be a little bit more specific because which McGirt versus Oklahoma case, you refine that a little bit, and we'll ask it once you repost. While I was saying that, a question post came up from Creek Pride 23, so I'm going to start again with you, Mrs. Whitecloud. Will you support a national council ethics bill that expels representatives for convictions of both felony and misdemeanor crimes and moral turpitude?
I definitely think we need to have stronger ethics. We need national council members that want to follow the rules of procedure, because there's already things in here to discipline, and public drunkenness is one of them. Because I'm looking at it right here, and the last two incidences with council members had to do with drinking, but nothing was done. So.
Well, I wanted to jump in there too, Ms. Whitecloud. Which rules are you referring to? Council's internal procedures or MCN code?
The rules of procedure. Council.
Okay, and just for the audience and everybody out there, just so you know, the council's internal procedures is something that the council votes on a periodic basis, and those things can be changed by the council. So just to clarify with everybody, I'm sorry, and do you want to add more to your answer there, or you good?
I just think that, we do need stronger ethics for national council members and to follow them.
Okay, Mr. Lowe.
Yes, sir. I do feel we need stronger ethics on the council rules and procedures. I do know that our attorney has revised and upgraded our ethics bill. So here pretty soon, we were hoping we'd get it sooner, but we haven't had everyone take a look and get a good brief on it yet. But there will be forthcoming a good ethics bill that I feel is a lot stronger. So ethics, certainly.
Okay. T.Y. Prohl asks, and this is for both of you, and I'm going to start with Ms. Whitecloud. Would you support calling a constitutional convention for proposed amendments?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Mr. Lowe.
Right now, I would say that we need to wait until we find out the appeal of this Freedman issue, for the fact that if we're changing our Constitution, then that little piece of by blood for citizenship, it looks as though we can just easily change that too. So I would be very cautious right now and let this case play out. And then once that's done and we get the final hearing, the final judgment, then a Constitution convention could be valid, but right now I wouldn't call one.
Okay, let's see here. Blue says the 2020 ruling concerning creature. Okay, so I guess Blue's question here, I'm gonna paraphrase what you've got here because I think I understand what you're asking, and I'm gonna start with Mr. Lowe. What's your opinion on the McGirt ruling that came down in 2020?
My opinion is I'm very happy that we were able to get that ruling. The thing that surprised me, at that time I was on council for 7 months, for me to see that none of our leadership had a plan for us to win that case, right? We didn't even have a plan if we were to win that case. So we have been reactive ever since that ruling was read in our favor. We have reacted, and granted, we have been reacting good. It's been great, but it's trial by error. We've been learning by mistakes, and we have worked on our public safety, our courts, and et cetera, But the thing is I wish we would have had a plan in place a year before the case actually was heard, because we've just been reacting. So I appreciate that we did get our reservation back. So yes, sir.
Ms. Whitecloud?
Yes, it's a victory for our sovereignty. So I was happy with the ruling. But there's still a lot of work to be done. Still a lot of things to learn, and a lot of things that we still don't know. But
Okay.
I'm happy that it happened.
All right. Let's see. Where are we at? Okay, this is for both of you, and I believe I'm starting with Ms. Whitecloud this time. Do you support strengthening nepotism conflicts of interest through a greater degree? And this is a thesaurus word. I think he knows. I think I know what he means. A greater degree of consanguinity. Is that right, T.Y. Parole? You might need to rephrase that so I can understand that. But do you support strengthening nepotism conflicts of interest through a greater degree of consanguinity? Ms. Whitecloud.
What is consanguinity?
I think what T.Y. Parole is asking that would you support revisiting the nepotism laws and conflict of interest laws in the tribe with a more focus towards reducing or making it more like it's only your personal family members due to the interrelatedness of the tribe, right? Like only your daughter, blood or marriage relations is what he says is referring to. So he's asking that the nepotism laws get another look at and honing it down to just who you're married to, maybe your spouse, and then your son or your daughter.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth revisiting and seeing what's in there. I'm really, like I said, I'm not familiar right now with how it reads or what the policy is regarding nepotism, but if there's definitely conflicts of interest in things, we need to disclose those and definitely need to revisit some of those things.
Okay. Mr. Lowe?
Right. Yeah. I think that nepotism could be looked at again, in a little bit more detail. I will commend and say that our HR does a great job in, looking at nepotism and following that policy. I know sometimes they slip by the cracks because as Muskogee people, we're akin to practically everybody. So, some of the things that, you do get those that come through the cracks and things like that. But just a quick review or a stronger review of nepotism would be good.
Okay. Our next question is for both of you, and I think I need to start with Mr. Lowe this time. Do you support greater access in codifying the code?
Codifying which code, sir?
Well, I think he's referring to MCN code, and just before you answer, I would pop in there to say to T.Y. Parole that there has been legislation that's went through the Business Finance and Justice Committee that is going to allocate funding for the AG's office to have the code codified and printed, and also a digital format of it that can be searched, et cetera, et cetera. It's in the previous Lawyered Up if you guys want to go check it out. So, but yes. Mr. Lowe, do you support that?
Oh, yes, sir, I do. In visiting with the AG several months ago, actually, she talked about after a council meeting how they were going to have some attorneys come and rewrite the code and update our codes, which I feel is spectacular because they're dated and we need to modernize them. So I commend them for doing that.
Okay, Ms. Whitecloud?
Yes, I did hear you talk about that in the last Lawyered Up, so I am in support of that, and I think it's a good thing.
Okay. While we were talking there, guys, I know the audience saw it. Our little 15-minute warning blip popped up. So we've got, hold on, I'm a little too loud. Let me turn myself down. We've got 15 minutes left before our meeting time runs out. So if you got an important question, make sure you pop it in the chat. While I was saying that, a question for both of you guys popped up, and I believe Miss Whitecloud is going first this time. Okmulgee MCN Monitors asks, do you believe that MCN Lighthorse should apply their enforcement and reporting equally, which of course is especially important and applicable to elected council representatives and chiefs? Ms. Whitecloud.
Do I believe in equal reporting?
I'll read it again. Do you believe that MCN Lighthorse should apply their enforcement and reporting equally, which of course is especially important and applicable to elected council representatives and chiefs?
Absolutely. There's, I mean, it should be a matter of public record, no matter who it is.
Okay, Mr. Lowe?
Oh, yes, sir. I agree. They should report whatever they need to. I mean, that's their main part of their job is reporting and keeping us safe. So, yes.
Okay, we've had another question pop up here from Blue. This is for both of you, and I believe I'm starting with Mr. Lowe this time. What are your opinions concerning the 1866 Treaty and nation's independence?
Oh my goodness. For me, this whole Freedman case, I didn't realize we were going to talk about it so much tonight, but here we are. And I would say that again, all I'm going to say is that as a council representative right now, that I'm following the Constitution, and treaties have been broken. I hate that for a lot of tribal citizens, but to me, I'm just going to I'm going to stick and follow the Constitution.
Okay, Ms. Whitecloud?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Let's see. What are your opinions concerning the 1866 Treaty and the nation's independence?
I apologize to Mr. Blue because I did not read the 1866 treaty and get myself very familiar with it. So I'm not sure.
Okay. Moving on down, let's see here. This is for both candidates, so I'm going to start with you, Ms. Whitecloud. Do you think the blood quantum restrictions for holding office contribute to this says Nepo Adams conflicts of interest, but I think what he means is, I think that's autocorrect. Nepotism and conflicts of interest. Should I read it again?
Yes.
I think what he's asking is, do you think that blood quantum restrictions, I'm assuming he's talking about on running for office, is contributing to nepotism and conflicts of interest?
I don't really think so right now, since we have district voting, because every citizen gets to vote on every candidate, not just their district and not just their family. So at this time, I would have to say no.
Okay, Mr. Lowe?
Right. I think the blood quantum does not contribute to nepotism, conflicts of interest, or that person's personal reasons to choose why or why not they're going against the rules and regulations. So it's up to each one of us if we choose to have a conflict of interest and pursue that conflict. So I say no.
Okay. I'm going to jump in here because kind of what we were talking about there is related to one of the questions we're asking. I do want to remind everybody we are at 47 minutes. And so if we run out of time in the Google meeting and these guys get kicked out and I get kicked out, I'll just wrap everything up. I'm going to go as long as we can because we're still getting questions in the chat, but I wanted to jump in here with this question, and I'm going to start with you, Mr. Lowe. What is your opinion on changing the code to return to district voting?
To me, district voting, initially I spoke with a lot of different communities. I spoke with some elders group, and they were wanting to discuss having a constitutional convention for that very purpose. So to me, when I went and asked and talked to a lot of different communities, first of all, I did put that bill up. It didn't pass committee, and then it was just put up again here recently, and it failed. But when I asked certain communities, I would say at least 8 communities, the answer that I got was because my family is the biggest in this district and I want my family member in there. And I said, great, what is the second reason? There has to be a second reason, because district voting, it changes a lot of things. And well, there is no second reasoning. My family's the biggest. So for me, I think at-large voting is where we need to be, because we've been doing it since '79. And to me, I feel that it's working great for us.
Okay. Ms. Whitecloud?
We've been doing district voting since 1979.
I think that got changed.
Right.
Yeah, that got changed later. But what is your opinion on going back to district voting?
I think district voting is good because, first of all, I think that the council needs to put it to the people, pass it out of their committees, and let it be decided on by the people. But a lot of people in these other districts, they don't know who to vote for, or they won't even vote for people in other districts because they don't know them or anything about them. Not everybody's on social media. Not everybody knows how to access computers and things like that. So I think it needs to go to the people, but I am for district voting.
Okay. Let's see here. I'm going to check my questions because we've had some questions pop up there, but I don't know how serious they are. Let's see. My next question on my list, we are at 50 minutes, is, and I'm going to start with, I think I start with you this time, Ms. Whitecloud. What is your position on removing the primary election and only having a general in light of the fact that there are no political parties at the MCN?
I've never thought about that. This being my first time to campaign, I would be for it.
Okay, Mr. Lowe?
Right. Thank you, sir. For me, I think the way we do it now, because the first time I ran, there were 9 of us running for the Okmulgee district seat. And when we were able to get down to 2 opponents, then, we had the general. And to me, it was a great process. So I would stay with what we have going on, sir.
Okay. I just had a thought while we were talking about that, and what I don't want to have happen is ask a question of both candidates, and then after one candidate finishes, the other one doesn't get a chance to respond because the meeting ends. So I think I might wrap it in a couple of minutes, guys. So I'm going to cut questions from the chat right now and just do one more question from my list, just so we don't get caught in a situation where we get kicked out of the Google meeting without getting the other candidate's response to a question, like if we're in the middle of a question. So I'm going to go ahead and ask one more of my questions, and then we're going to wrap. So if your question didn't get asked, I'm sorry about that, but we've asked a lot of questions tonight. So, and I do want to thank both of you guys for joining us tonight, and everybody's been great. That being said, let me look through my list here. I've got Okay, let's do this one, and I'm going to start with Mr. Lowe first. What will be your first priority as a legislator if you are elected?
I would say my first priority, if I were reelected, is to really hone in on this ethics bill. To me, it's been very eye-opening to have this discussed at almost every forum. Everywhere I go, it's discussed. And I know as a sitting council representative, we have talked about this internally. So, that's something that I feel that's very much needed. So the ethics bill is something, and I'm glad they're continuing and are working on it right now. So that's going to be what's coming up first. So I think that's the priority.
All right, Ms. Whitecloud?
I would like to get in there and try to figure out ways to help our communities, our at-large citizens, whether it's through grants or just dig in and find out what barriers there are to helping more of our communities and our at-large people, and also addressing the mental health substance abuse issues.
All right. Well, with that note, I want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I thank you guys for joining me tonight through this Google Meet to give you a heads up on what's coming up, important dates, and there is a link to the important dates for the election in the description of this video. So if you want to know when the deadlines are for getting registered or when election day is or early voting starts, you can click that. But early voting is going to be on the 1st and the 2nd of November. The election day is going to be on the 4th. The last day to register to vote in person is the 24th, so that's next week. So if you aren't registered to vote, you need to get on out there and do it. And with that being said, Mado to everybody, and we'll see you again soon. Chihicha,
Mado, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.